Come on. Oh, we're live. Hey, sorry, it startled me. StreamYard said it wasn't working. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome back to another episode of Always Almost There, day after show live. We are here today to talk about the beginning of the Goose fall semester that happened last night in Iowa. And I'm joined, of course, by my good friend, not of course, actually, but today I'm excited to be joined by my good friend, Corey, aka Beef of Ages. From over at WTED. Corey, how are you today?
Living the dream, my friend. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. And I'd like everyone to appreciate your background. That is not a virtual background. That is the bar in your basement. And that's
I mean, I live in Wisconsin, so if you have a basement, you're legally required to have a bar. So here we are.
Oh, amazing. Well, of course, Wisconsin is not that far from Iowa, which I learned about a year ago.
It's a 3-hour and 45-minute drive. Ask me how I know.
Did you make that drive yesterday by any chance?
Yeah, my wife and I drove out yesterday. We left about lunchtime, got out there and did the show, and then left at 8 this morning after seeing half of Disco. I love the guys in Disco, but I'm old and that was late. So we caught half the Disco show and then had to bail out and go get some sort of meaningful rest before we drove back over. So yeah.
That sounds reasonable. Well, tell me about the setting for last night's show, because from the looks of it, people were there in the morning watching sound check and everything. Like, was it just a field with no security, no rules?
Yeah, it was wide open to everybody. And so some of the people that were there for sound check, like they didn't even have gates around the front of house area where Loomis and Getty do their magic. It was just basically a big wide open field that is between a river and the Hampshire Auditorium, where they actually do their normal performances, and they have the bars and bathrooms and all that kind of stuff in there, which is a beautiful facility. But this is literally just a field, and they bring in an 18-wheeler that folds out into a stage, and they hung the PA, hung the lights, and did a show. Like, it was very much a field in the middle of Iowa. It was kind of cool.
That's awesome. And I mean, this is a hell of a way. Like, if you're a student at the University of Iowa, and you I
don't know that they have I don't know they have an appropriate appreciation for how hooked up they got by this.
Yeah, like this is pretty good. Like, my freshman year of university, it was like some random electronic duo I'd never heard of that wasn't very good.
There was for mine, which was about 1.4 billion years ago, there was a DJ of questionable quality, yes. And it was like in two like old PV speakers that like had a tweeter like blown out in one of them. It sounded terrible. There was no it was awful. This was, as you would expect with a Goose performance, a professionally produced show.
Yes, and it's Goose. Like, this is hard to. You can't really do better for a university fall semester welcome concert.
even some of the kids walking around, because before they had the drum line open the show, but the university president came out and said, yeah, how many freshman students do we have here? And there was a smattering. There was probably 100 freshman students out there. It was like, you guys have no idea what's about to happen. And a lot of them stayed for the whole show. Like, it did clear out eventually, but like a lot of them stayed for the whole show, and people were dancing around, having a good time. Like, it was great. It was amazing. It was exactly what you would have expected. Yeah.
Awesome. How many people would you say were there, if you had to guess?
I would say somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000 at peak, because it's a big field. So everybody was spread out, lots of room. Everything was cool because you could bring your own. Like, my wife and I brought camp chairs in. We brought a cooler with some waters, and technically speaking, alcohol was not allowed, so I didn't bring any alcohol. Moving on. I hope there's a statute of limitations somewhere in there, but it was a very kind of wide open thing, and there were a bunch of people, because it rained probably 20 minutes before the drum line got started, and so there were a bunch of people just hung out in the auditorium. There's a big balcony there where they have a couple of bars. People just watch the entire show from up there. It was a nice wide open space. If they ever went back there again, I can't imagine that happening. If that ever happened, I'd make the drive out again. It was a good show.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, next time you hopefully get 2 sets. But I mean, so I was wondering, when I heard it was 1 set, 2-hour set, and I wasn't able to listen live last night. And I just want to extend huge thank you to you for running a Mixler stream for everybody at home last night. Much appreciated.
And also shout out to Michael Basty, the great and powerful Michael Basty, who also simulcast it on WTED. So we had there were like almost 450 people listening concurrently at one point. So we had a lot of people on. It was great.
Hell yeah. And they heard you getting excited about the show, which is
I I did try to keep my outbursts to a bare minimum, but that Creatures, man, and we'll get to that.
Yeah. Yeah, and shout out to, I think his name is Todd. This morning, and it's good enough that you can hear what's going on.
Yeah,
you can get the show. So
for having and so like there were a couple of guys. I think Todd was one of them that had some like actual professional like taper recording gigs, like you used to see at Dave Matthews shows, where they had like 8 mics on a boom mast and all that. So there was some of that going. I don't know where any of that stuff is, but hopefully there's some good quality recordings until hopefully we get boards.
I mean, we've had a boards drought since Westville. We have not seen Newport. We have not seen Park City. We have not seen Philly. You know,
and
we haven't seen this yet
today. I'm wondering what Peter and Loomis are doing. Like, come on, guys.
They're taunting us. But I would like the boards of this show before any of the other ones, because I want to hear this Creatures and soundboard. But before we get to that, let's talk about what else happened. So we come out of the gate, Pancakes, All I Need, Blood Buzz. Nothing too crazy here. Cool transition, cool cover choice for this. What are your choices? Or your choices? What are your thoughts on the first 3?
It was interesting that they started with Pancakes, because I read somewhere in the Wisteria Lane chat last night that as I was scrolling back through it, that I think, and don't quote me on this, but I think Pancakes has opened shows 6 times throughout the course of Goose Plague. I have seen 5 of them, including last night.
What's the one that you weren't at?
I haven't looked that one up, but the stats I have say I've seen that show open 5 times. So it was actually, I thought it was a nice kind of easy way to take a crowd who, there were some people like in Goose shirts or you know that were clearly there and knew who the band was, but it was a lot of people that were associated with the University of Iowa. It was college students. It was, you know, the boosters and I guess faculty, whoever else. So it wasn't like your typical Goose show, obviously. And so I thought Pancakes was a really nice way for them to sort of enter into that. You get a little crowd interaction because Peter's encouraging people to clap at the beginning and all of that. And it was a nice way to just say, hey, we're actually a band that plays really good music. And here's a nice song with a jam in the middle of it that wasn't anything insane, but it was good. And it was kind of just a nice sort of entree, as opposed to maybe them coming out at Madison Square Garden and playing Factory Fiction, just ripping all our faces off, right?
Yes.
It was a little bit of a more gentle approach, I thought.
Hi, how are you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then All I Need, Blood Buzz.
I hate that they ripcornered All I Need into Blood Buzz. Blood Buzz is, for me personally, it's a catchy song like that. It sits in the back of my head, but it's not my favorite cover that they do. But the All I Need was good. Oh. You seem to be locking up. I don't know if it's me or it's you.
I think it was me. Anyway, yeah. I mean, I think All I Need is returning to what it was for most of this year before Wilmington and MSG. And I say that just off of this one version. I'm hoping that that's not the case going into fall tour, and that we see, you know, some bigger versions, because Wilmington.
Yeah.
At podcasting. Wilmington and Westville are both such fantastic jams that I hope.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Westville one was incredible. And this one was good. Like, it had all of the mixture, like the recipe was good. And then we went into Blood Buzz, I guess, because that's what Rick wanted to play, which, I mean, cool. It wasn't bad. I just would have much rather than spend that time playing All I Need.
Yeah. Similar to Spokane in that respect, I think.
Yeah, that's true.
Really cool jam going around 10 minutes and then segue. All right. From there, we get couple album songs, Hot Love and Royal, and then a rare mid-set Hot Tea. Interesting to see here.
I was not expecting that tea. Yeah, I was not expecting the tea. Hot Love, I'm always a fan of. It can open a show. They can play it whenever they want. It's just a good, like, tasty radio banger. Like, I'm here for it. I also always enjoy when Cotter gets to just go wild for a couple of minutes, and that's always fun. And then, you know, going into to Royal, obviously second time ever played, first time for me because I was not at the first show that it was played at. It was really good. And I leaned. Oh, it is the third. That's right. I forgot about that.
Third show in a row too.
Yeah, it is. It has a 100% reliability rate thus far. But I leaned over and told my wife, because she's she wears her she has a not 100% solo Goose shirt. She wears, unironically, because she's like 80% of the way there. She likes Rockdale, she likes things like that. And so when they played Royal, I was like, I think you might actually like this because it's kind of in that same vein.
Yeah.
And it almost has, it's got a lot of funk in the middle, but there's almost like a sort of a country-ish setup to it in the composed section. And she's like, "Yeah, this is good. I want to go find that because I have to go get the album off of Bandcamp and give it to her so she can go sort through that." But I thought that was a pretty high mark for somebody who hadn't heard that song before and likes that style of music. Was like, "Yeah, that was actually pretty good." So I'm assuming we'll hear that on radio stations near us at some point.
Sure.
And then I always like hot tea. I'll take it whatever they do. They had a great jam here. The crowd kind of went wild when towards the end of it. Because they didn't really know. Like, he just kept going back to it again and again and again before they finally wrapped it up, and it just kept building. I thought it was great. I enjoyed it. Had a good time. It was a dance party out in the field. That's for sure.
100%. And Hot Tea also, we are seeing a showcase of Peter's brand new Rhodes. New gear day yesterday. So the vintage vibe is out. It is gone. It is no longer in the rig as of right now. And in its place, Peter has a brand spanking new custom Rhodes Mark 8.
So that's his, right? Because I was wondering that a lot of the show was backline, right? They didn't have it was not their PA, it wasn't their lights, but I think it was all of their instruments, all
their musical gear.
All the musical gear there. So okay.
So the Rhodes is here. It is orange, so similar color to the vintage vibe, but you'll notice it doesn't have the stereo console, which is like the box speaker the vintage vibe sat on. The Rhodes is currently being run through a couple of amps that are behind the gear. But the cool thing about the Rhodes Mark 8, if it has like a bunch of built-in effects. It's like a top of the line, brand new, basically and
it probably simplifies his gear layout, right?
I mean, a little bit. It added 2 amps, and I don't know what his pedal situation looks like now, but I'm sure he's gotten rid of some of the pedals that he had with the vintage vibe because the Rhodes has.
Yeah, you clearly need to go do another rig rundown with it. It's been a couple of years, right?
What was that? Sorry.
Yeah, I think you locked up there for a second. I was saying you clearly need to go do another rig rundown with him because I think it's been a couple of years since you've done one.
It's been 3 years. 3 years? 2 years. 2.5 years.
To say the things that have changed since then is a dramatic understatement.
A little bit. But yeah, so this Rhodes is a very exciting addition. And I'm excited to see Peter, utilize what it can do because this thing can do a lot. So it's going to be cool. Also, the sound is different than the vintage vibe. It's a little more full, not as punchy. So, that kind of changes the tone a little bit.
And I always wonder because, Loomis has a bunch of outboard gear at the front of house station, and there's different things running through different systems. And I don't pretend to understand it all, but I was wondering how much of that he was doing things with versus just letting what Peter's doing flow through, and what he plays is what you hear. Right.
I don't think Loomis is putting any effects on any of the stuff that we're hearing. As far as I know, the band handles all the effects themselves.
Cool. I mean, which is what you would expect from consummate musicians, which is what they are.
Yes. All right. So let's talk about the main event here of this set, which is this Creatures.
That was a thing.
Oh my God. Okay. So first of all, they didn't they eliminated the final chorus out of that little space out that usually happens. That's where they entered into the jam. So you don't get the usual straight disco vibe. And I mean, Cotter, incredible. Obviously the audience recording that I listened to, you can't get the way that they transitioned from that space, kind of, again, riding what Cotter's doing into just an absolutely phenomenal sustained peak. That's not just like a standard, Rick shreddy peak. Like this is full band improv, like beautiful bliss jam. And I cannot wait to hear this in a soundboard. But I mean, tell me your extensive thoughts on this Creatures, please.
I always get happy when Peter picks up his guitar. As I like to say, Dos Guitarras de Ganso is always welcomed by me, and that's where we started. And to your point, like especially when they got, I guess about halfway through that jam, it was a full band experience. It wasn't Rick soloing. It was a whole thing. It reminded me a lot of Your 2025 Jam of the Year, Matt Yvonne from Milwaukee. That's not a hasty rank. That's just facts, and you'll just have to deal with it. But moving on, that the Matt Yvonne from Milwaukee had a similar thing where it was the whole band just powering through together, and this Creatures got a taste of that, to the point where there were people around me that were just, they were either students or whatever it was. They were just casual people who were there, and they were looking around going, "Holy crap, what was that?" I think when it finally ended and people that were on the Mixler last night heard me, 'cause I was trying to be quiet, obviously, because there's a live mic sitting next to me, and so my wife and I are trying not to bother that too much. But I couldn't help myself, and I think I said something to the effect of "God damn," and that went out, and everybody was laughing at me, which was appropriate. But it was just one of those things where I couldn't help myself, because it was one of those jams that just absolutely blows your face off in a way that I don't think that crowd was really expecting, because there was a lot of great music leading up to that point, but there was nothing quite like that. That was the special moment of the evening, at least for me.
I frankly wasn't expecting anything on this level either. Like I was hoping that like possibly we'd get a jam to put on my playlist, but like I didn't think we would, given it's like a one set show. For the university.
And when you followed it, right, yeah, and when you followed it like with the mid-set Hot Tea, which was an interesting choice, and then we went into Creatures, I was like, okay, I don't know what's happening here, but it's Goose, so I'm just going to listen to it and enjoy it, and I did. And then they did that, and I said, I see, okay, all right, it was almost the exclamation point before we even got to Arcadia or Sham or any of the other things that happened later on.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, I can't wait to hear this. I can't wait to slot this into my playlist.
I hope they drop the boards, because it's worth it. I think it will make the bracket this year. I don't see how it doesn't.
Without a doubt. And yeah, those of you who have not heard the audience recording yet, get ready, because this is some shit. All right, and then our last few songs, the show Slow Ready and Arcadia to close out the set, and an encore of Shamma. Corey, what are your thoughts on these last few?
So I thought that they had a 10 p.m. curfew. It turns out it was 10:30. And I don't know if that was like, it was always 10:30, or they just said, oh yeah, we're gonna go past it, and everybody was like, cool. I don't know if any of that happened at all, but they played until 10:30. So when they started Slow Ready, I was like, they have like 8 minutes. We're not gonna get to anything that resembles the fast segment or Goose or whatever they were gonna do. But then they just kept going, and it was really good. But I felt like it was abbreviated in some way because they wanted to get to Arcadia.
Right.
And Arcadia had much more, I guess, oomph behind it, especially at the end where Trevor comes back in with that, the ending riff, where it was one of those things where it was almost as good as the Creatures, not quite there. Like they got almost there, but it was a very, very good Arcadia. And that's one of the things I'm really loving, like especially the end of the summer tour. Arcadia's kind of built over the year from my perspective anyway. And this continued that trend. So I'm loving seeing Arcadia come back into what it used to be in like 2021, 22.
Yeah. I think this one definitely could have been a little longer. I think again, they didn't have the time with it, but definitely above average.
They were in the space for it. I think if they were doing a regular show where they didn't have that kind of curfew, it would have went probably 3 to 5 minutes longer, I would assume.
100%.
And then we got Sham at the end. Who doesn't love Sham? Sham is always a good time. I think a lot of people were like, what, is this a Goose song? Or like, no.
Animal House. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And everyone's like, all right, well, it's kind of a vibe. And at that point, again, I think I'm going to say half the crowd had left probably by the time we got to Arcadia. And then when they did the encore, they left stage a bunch of people, and it's college students. They don't have any longevity. They don't understand how jam band structures work, any of that kind of stuff. So there was a pedestrian bridge over the river that's just behind where the stage was, and you could see a lot of them were walking over there. But as they started playing Shamma, they were all dancing on that bridge as they walked back to their dorms or apartments or whatever it was. So I think everybody had a really good time, and mercifully, it wasn't trouble. They weren't in trouble getting out of there after the show ended, because half the people had already left. So we just kind of got in the car and drove back to the hotel. It was great.
There you go. Easy.
Yeah, it's easy because obviously we had to go see Disco, and since they played till 10:30, we were pressed for time.
Yes.
So we were able to go back and park and then walk over to the venue that the Disco played at. But no, I mean, Sham is always good. I'll take a Sham anytime. There's still a lot of people I know that are chasing it and they haven't seen it. I think I've seen it 4 or 5 times. Like I've had it quite a lot, and I'm not sad about that.
There we go. But yeah, I think I'm at like 9 or 10 Shamas at this point.
Yeah. Some of us have been shammed out, but I mean, I'm not sad about it.
That's always fun. So that brings us to the end of last night's show on the Hampshire Green in Iowa City. Corey, thank you so much for joining me. Always a pleasure.
Thanks, Ryan. I appreciate the opportunity.
Of course. Thank you again so much for the stream. Next up, Sunday, big day for the burgeoning Dave Matthews Band Goose crossover community. As Goose opens for Dave at the Gorge. We just found out earlier today that the show will be streamed for free on volta.live. I believe it said 5:45 Pacific, 8:45 Eastern is when Goose is starting. Obviously, we will share that. But we will be back on Monday, Labor Day, for the day after show. We will be joined by our good friend Garrett, of course, as he celebrates his 100th Dave Matthews Band show on Sunday.
Oh, good for him.
Yeah, which is very exciting. It's also his birthday. Happy birthday to Garrett.
Happy birthday to Garrett. And that guy gets all the nice things, but the upside is he's a super good dude, so he deserves it.
Exactly. Well, everybody enjoy your long weekend here. Corey, thank you again so much for joining me. Everyone go, you can go hang out with Corey and all the other lovely people at WTED while you go listen to WTED on the Wisteria Lane.
Yeah, WTED and the community.wisterialane.org. There's nothing better than listening to Goose with friends, as Michael Basty likes to say. So come join us. We'll have a good time.
That's the great and powerful Michael Basty.
The great and powerful, and not terrible, though. He's actually the finest human being I think I've ever known. But
he's great.
He knows that.
And powerful.
He knows that.
Yeah, there we go. All right. Everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. Enjoy your long weekend once again. We will see you on Monday afternoon. Peace.
Thanks.